What's going on, YouTube? Apparently, Dow suffers one of the worst yearly starts since 1932 amid weak China data. If you believe that, weak China data, um, you're gullible because this is a long time coming. Um, the only thing is, it had the worst, and it fell all night, 1 o'clock in the morning all the way to the open. All the way down to 1980. Broke this 3 previous lows, but the last half hour it retraced all the way back up about the 2000 mark. And that 2000 mark is going to be quite a bit of support and an emotional spot. So you might have a bump and run in and around 2000, maybe a consolidation and then a drop again. But this bearish retracement at the end of the day just tells me how weak it is. People covering at the end of the day. End of the day fills, you know. Just for the people that don't want to keep overnight. But the Dow did the same thing. And back to that news, Dow suffers one of the most yearly starts since 1932. That's Great Depression. And they blame it on China, but these are worse numbers than 1932, the yearly open. So what it's saying to me is it doesn't look good. These are Great Depression numbers. And that's what happens when you create debt bubbles. We've seen it all before. It just ruins markets. And if this thing comes crashing down, it'll take years before it to recover. Hopefully this time around we can get rid of the bankers. How's that sound? Maybe some free markets out there. That'll be fun to trade. Dow did the same thing. It gapped on the open, obviously, because S&P was already way down. And did the same thing. It whiplashed or bearish reversal, or bearish retracement back above its support resistance line. US dollar looks like that's on a weekly. That might be a flag. But today it kind of hit both spectrums of support and resistance on the whole pattern. You can see that. There, and then the top here. So I didn't see that much action in the dollar today. It just might have been all night that it did that. I didn't see too much movement until I actually looked at it, and you can see the range was pretty long, and it could be a misprint. I'm not sure, but it's still holding above that line, and this is the major resistance line, that 4 topper, and that just looks like a flag pattern forming on the weekly. So we'll see what happens. I'm thinking lots of inflation is coming, and this dollar is going to go through the roof. As well, other countries around the world losing, OPEC countries might go bankrupt because crude's going under. Euro might go under because, Greece is not paying their debt, or Ukraine's not paying their debt, or whatever. So people want to throw their money in the currency that is the most reliable, and that is the reserve currency. And so far, we're still hanging on to that. Not for long, China, Russia, and the BRICS nations are all coming up with a plan to dissolve the dollar. And war in Syria has been diverted for the time being until they come up with a new plan to scam everybody. So they're looking for a war so that their money doesn't look bad. Gold had a kind of a good day, and it's still doing this thing. I'm going to call this line the pivot point. Still looks good. It's consolidating is what I'm saying. It's consolidating. The longer it consolidates, the better it is on the upside. So anything above this line, 1,075 and up, I don't know. It's not exact. So look for previous highs. Here's a previous high. Still not sure about this pop above because I never saw it, and I didn't never see where that came from. But if this is the case, it's a whipsaw and it's going to go down. But so far so good today on the open. Looks pretty strong, but it might just be putting in its high for the week and then allow itself to fall on the weekly. But just change this up a little bit. Probably not needing this anymore. Getting in the way on the weekly. But like I said, it's consolidating. It went up to previous lows, backed off, and it's consolidating right underneath there. Still above 1,000, but just going sideways for now. You can see the tiny pattern on the weekly. It's like a pin it. Sometimes you can't tell if these things are bullish or bearish until they break. So here what I'm looking at is the price squeezing inside this pattern, squeezing, gaining momentum, getting tighter and tighter as the price gets squeezed between support and resistance and has to pop and move out. So the next few weeks, maybe the next day, that can be a bearish pattern or not. I suppose it is bearish because the down trend on the weekly is bearish. Therefore, this pattern is bearish until it proves wrong, until it goes against. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. As price gets squeezed between support and resistance, it has to move out. It'll pop like a cork or a spaceship going into or leaving the atmosphere as it reaches vacuum. And price has to go outside these lines. It'll pop. Get squeezed like a corkscrew. I'm hoping on the upside. Trying to catch these things on a bottom. Can't wait for that to happen. Copper, I was so excited. Maybe that was a bottom, but no. They slashed and burned this thing so fast. Right on the open. Just pummeled it. But it is still above this. It's in this little consolidation pattern. You can see the pattern consolidating. Still in the pattern. This could make a green bar tomorrow. And I mentioned before is watch out for the previous high, and that's your in. But copper and the rest of them are still weak on the longer term charts. So got a lot of work to do. Just love seeing that consolidation starting to form on the daily. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Same as silver. It had a good day, but it ended down. And it went up, touched that trend line, and just bounced off right away. Crude oil, same thing. It's consolidating above the trend, the 3, 5, and 8 trends, but it doesn't look like it's going to hold. You got a double top here, and it hit its equilibrium at the trend, the major trend line. So it's going to back off. I think it still has to fill the gap here, but you know, anything could happen. You got to keep that in mind. It's going to take your marks. If this breaks a previous high, then you're in. But then again, you got to keep an eye on the longer term charts. And definitely, if you're not a professional, I would not touch anything that is not in your favor on the trend. Don't bet against the trend. This trend is down. If you went on the daily and bet it up, I mean, your upside is limited. It's going to go into the previous lows and get halted. So you get what? I got $4 on the upside on this thing. Pretty good if you're a futures trader, but it's just a lot of work. It's got to break these previous lows as well, break into the major trend, and then once you pop the major trend, then you're in for the long term. You can swing trade it, as they say, with the trend. But this thing's just got decimated. It's going to be a while before crude ever recovers from this mess. And I don't think it's done. I mean, that is a steep, very steep downtrend. And these are all failures. Failed. And now it's way below the 3-day moving average on a weekly. I mean, that's horrible where these things are at. But that's it. I mean, we had a great downfall finally from the major indices. Dollar does the opposite, of course. Gold and silver still consolidating. See where gold can do outside of this pattern. But, you know, just like on crude, it has to break through the previous lows, and then you have to go to the weekly and see where you're actually at on the trend. And then you can look on the monthly to see exactly how you're going to get out of the mess. So it's got to break in the previous lows, and then I think a major trend reversal will be above 12,000 or 1200. You see how that works? Got a lot of work to do. Anything could happen. Dollar collapses. The next day, this could be $10,000. I have no idea. But gold is money. I keep an eye on it. That's it. Thanks for watching, and let me know what's going on out there.